Okay, so to give you just an update on where we are with the transition, we have 25 sites that have gone live, and sorry, um, we have about 18 that are in the transition process. So we are moving right along about a third of the way through. And we have started talking about the extension homepage and moving that and what that looks like. So I know people are excited to see that go to the new look as well. Um, Today I'm in the middle of transitioning Muscatine County, and I've had a lot of questions even after trainings about, okay, we've learned how to use the content editor and layout builder, but how does that actually apply to adding content to a page? And so I wanted to move a page. I'm of course not going to do all of it while we're on the call because it'll take a long time, given the page that I'm moving, but I just thought it might be helpful to kind of talk through how I go about thinking about setting up the page and how I'm making those decisions. Hoping that that might also help you when you are setting up a page, especially utilizing some of those layout builder options. Um, so the page that I am going to be moving, excuse me, is the Muscatine County Fair page. I haven't created a new page on their site yet, but as you can see, there's a lot of content here. So I have to figure out how exactly I'm going to lay that out. Am I going to put it in different columns? Or am I going to use accordions? And um, honestly, this usually just depends for me on how it's laid out. So I could really do either or. I could do a column for the static clothing and communications exhibit information and one for the livestock exhibit information, or I could do accordions to kind of help break it up. So one of the things that we're trying to do with the new sites is, you have a lot of tools to try and eliminate these huge lists of content, this huge page of content to make it a little bit more usable for the people that are looking at the page. And not everyone is going to need all of this information. So an accordion would probably work really well because at first glance, they don't need all of this. They're going to be looking for something very specific. So that's where the headings would come into play on this particular page. So I'm going to go ahead and create a county fair page on Muscatine's site. And because this is not an automatic, like an educational program page, it doesn't automatically go into the menu. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That is something that editors don't have access to right now, but I'm going to go ahead and create this county fair page. So I've created a landing page for the county fair page and I've placed it in the menu. So now I need to go to the layout tab. And I need to decide how I'm going to lay out this page. So taking a look again at their current page, they have a couple buttons here for fair entry login and 4-H online login. They have kind of a little bit of a description, and then they have some more general information. So to me, it will make sense to put all of this into a paragraph. The general information is going to be something that probably everyone is going to need. So having it out and available right off the bat is going to be useful. So I am going to just copy that content real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and import from library and add a one column section. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a block, create custom block, and I'm going to add a basic content block because I'm just adding regular content. Like they definitely have some files that I'm going to have to download and upload, but for the most part, this is just basic content. So I'm going to go ahead and use that basic content block. And I'm trying to decide here. They have fair information as the title of the page, but the title of our page is county fair. So we probably don't need to display the title here. I'm going to go ahead and use the fair information title, but I'm going to choose not to display it because it's just a duplication. Now I'm going to go ahead and paste in their content. And as you can see, I need to make some corrections here, or, you know, even just change the styling just a bit. So we don't want to have all that bold content. We just want to leave that to normal. So I just went ahead and removed bold. Also, this is a great use case for why I might want to use some button styles. So I'm actually going to open those up and copy that URL, and then I'm going to remove it real quick. I'm going to remove the bold again. We don't want everything bold, or it just takes away from the things that are bold and how important they are. And I'm going to choose a button style because honestly, that's a perfect use case for the button styles. Because this is a 4-H page, I'm going to use one of the green options. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paste that link back in. Now, technically, I didn't need to remove the link. I only did it because I wanted to make sure I had no styling on the text. So now I know it's just bolded. So I'm going to go ahead and add a green button to this 4-H online login as well. So now we've got a little bit of a visual application here with the button styles, and we've got this text that they have that kind of discusses some of the deadlines and stuff, which obviously will change for this coming year. Then we have general information. I'm deciding to leave this out because general information is something that anyone coming to this page is most likely going to need access to, and having it just visually accessible right off the bat is useful. So I'm going to remove the bold on that, and instead of just doing a bold application on that heading, I'm actually going to apply a heading to it. So I'm going to use heading 2 because heading 1 is on the page and we have to use those in order. And then now I'm not going to do this on the call, but I will need to go and download all of these publications and replace them. So we've got this first little bit, and now we need to figure out how to set up the rest of the content. So like I said, I'm really looking at this as 2 different options. We can create separate columns for static clothing and communications exhibit information, and then one for livestock exhibit information, or we can put these in accordions. So because there are also some subheadings, an accordion would probably have, like, this would be a heading, static clothing and communications exhibit information would be a heading. Then we would insert 2 accordion tabs, 1 resources on 1 forms, and put that information in there. Or we can just have these in columns. So I am going to ask for your guys' opinions. If this was your page that you were setting up, would you put them in accordions, or would you put them in column layouts so that everything is available when someone goes to the page? You can unmute your mic, put something in the chat. There's no right or wrong answer, none at all. It's just definitely a preference thing, but I'm going to let you guys decide how we set this page up. So columns or accordions?
I think columns would look nice.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Okay. No one else is brave. Columns, accordion. Okay. Couple columns and accordion. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up both ways. Since we have mostly columns. Okay. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up as columns first. So because I'm going to set it up as columns, I probably have made an error here. So I did this all as 1 column, and I could leave this and then go ahead and add a 2-column section underneath of it. Or I could switch this to a 3-column layout and have this on one side and the other 2 on the other side. Column layouts, especially when you have long sentences like that, it does kind of not look the best. the 3 columns really work well for just short amounts of information. Otherwise, they're just wrapping to the next line all of the time, and it kind of makes things look even longer. So I think I'm going to just add a 2-column layout underneath this main layout. So I've gone ahead and added a 2-column layout. I'm going to go ahead and add a block, create custom block. And again, I'm just going to use a basic content block. Now I need to come back. So I'm going to use static clothing and communications exhibit information. That is a lot of words. I'm going to use that as the title for the first block, and I'm going to display the title because obviously that's going to be an important clarification. Back on the page, I'm going to go ahead and copy their resources and forms for that section. I'm going to come back and I'm going to paste it in. So clearly I have to adjust all of these documents, but nobody's worried about that right now. So they have a heading 4 for resources, and I'm going to need to change that to a heading 3. So the title of the block is going to be a heading 2, just how it's set up to be a heading 2. So I've got to set this next heading for a heading 3 so that they go in order. So I'm just adjusting that real quick. I'm sure that a heading 4 was necessary on their other page, but since this page is just being set up differently, I'm just going to adjust it to match this. So now I've got resources and forms for the static exhibits, and I'm going to go ahead and add block. And there we go. It's all good. Now we're going to go ahead and add in the livestock information, create block, basic content block again. We need the livestock exhibit information title. Just going to paste that in. Again, I'm going to display the title because that's going to be an important clarification to make. And then I'm copying and pasting their resources and forms. Again, pasting them right into the body. Then I'm just double checking their headings again. And again, I'm going to adjust those so that they're heading 3, so that they're moving in order. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and save this real quick so we can just take a look. So I've got they do have a couple more links down here that I did not move yet. So we've got the more general information, the login links, and then we've got the 2 separate columns for the static and livestock exhibit information. So I had mentioned the possibility of doing this in 3 columns, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Now, I've already added the column layout, so I can't like go back in and change this 1 column layout to a 3 column layout. Can't do that. But I can just add a 3 column layout real quick and then drag and drop my content into the appropriate block. So I'm just dragging and dropping them into this 3 column layout that I just added. Want to make sure that I delete the section layout that I'm no longer using. If you leave this empty section layout, when I save the page, it's going to leave a bunch of extra space at the bottom because it's expecting there to be content there. So we just want to make sure we delete any section layouts that we are not using. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And now I need to move my general information into this first block. So just dragged and dropped it. And again, I'm going to remove this 1 column layout that I'm no longer using. And I'm going to save the layout so we can take a look. So as you can see, it's wrapping some of these bullet points onto a second line just because there's so much information and, only a little bit of space. To me, this looks a little bit more overwhelming because I can see all of it right off the bat. And it just looks like a lot of content and kind of makes me want to zone out a little bit. So this probably wouldn't be the way that I would end up doing it. But again, a lot of the layout of your pages is going to be personal preference and how it looks to you and what kind of importance it's going to be to your user. So if it's vitally important that they see all of this information right off the bat, this might be the best layout. So you really just have to kind of make a judgment call, and it's super easy to switch it around if you save it like this and it's on like this with the 3 columns for 2 months, and then you're like, I'm just not loving it. It's very easy to switch it back to a different layout. So it's not a big deal. Obviously minus making the time to do it. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to layout. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but to me, it felt like there just was not enough spacing in between those 3 columns with all that content. So I'm going to go ahead and go into configure 3 column layout. This is going to let me do some of those configuration options. I'm going to go to paddings, and I want the left right paddings, so left right, to be a little bit larger. So I think I'm going to try default paddings and see if that works. I'm going to go ahead and update. Save layout. It feels like it's added just a little bit more spacing in between those columns. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to layout, and we're going to do this as a accordion. So I'm going to move this back to a 1 column layout. I'm going to go ahead and move that first section. And now I am going to configure this static clothing and communications exhibit information so that I can copy all of this information. I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to X out. And because I'm using an accordion here, I can just come back into this 1 column section and configure it and add on the accordions to the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do. One reason you might want to separate it into a separate block is if you want the ability to hide this content, but not the more generalized information at the top, then you could put it in a separate block and then hide it when you want it to be removed from view. So I'm going to go ahead and add an accordion, and I messed up. I'm going to go ahead and add an accordion, and what I'm going to do instead of that, I'm going to copy the static clothing and communications exhibit information, and I'm actually going to make that a heading. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it as a heading 3 because it makes sense to me to be a little bit underneath this general information. So I'm putting the heading outside of the accordion. Now I'm going to come back and do the resources and forms separately. So resources is going to be my first accordion title, and forms is going to be my second. Now, one thing I've noticed about the accordions, if you are copying and pasting like a bulleted or numbered list in, it's not going to work. It just puts it into like a paragraph, which is very annoying to me. So instead of doing that, if you hit the bulleted icon, bullet list icon, or the numbered list icon, whichever you're using first, and then paste, it leaves the bullets there. So not sure what that little finicky thing is, but an easy way around it. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the forms information. There we go. Now I still need to add the livestock information. So I'm going to go back and copy livestock exhibit information, and I'm going to add that as another heading. And again, I'm double checking. It's a heading 3, so we're all good there. And now I need to add another accordion. And again, I'm doing resources and forms. And again, I'm just copying and pasting real quick. There's the resources, there's the forms. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save, update this block. And I'm going to go ahead and save it so we can take a look. Okay, so now the general information is all out there. And then we've got kind of the separation of the different options with the resources and forms separately. Now, I just chose to use the headings outside of the accordion and then use the subheadings, the resources and forms, as the accordion titles, but you could do this totally different. You could have the static clothing and communications exhibit information, has a mouthful. in the first accordion title and just have those resources and forms as a subtitle underneath there, and then it livestock exhibit information. So basically, instead of 2 headings and 4 accordion tabs, you would have 2 accordion tabs and no headings. So that's always an option as well. This also just kind of breaks the page. What's going on? This also just kind of breaks up the page a little bit so that not as much information is visible. But honestly, having 1 column at the top with 2 columns of information underneath of it also breaks it up because it creates that little visual break that just helps people process things a little bit better. So now my page keeps jumping, sorry. So now I've got these manual checks. If you've done training, you know that I usually say to just ignore the manual checks, but you can definitely go through this accessibility checker, this quick accessibility checker that's going to be available on your site, and it's going to tell you what needs to be done. Manual checks are almost always making sure a document is accessible. So I usually say just to ignore those because although we are working on document accessibility, we haven't started really requiring it on websites or really even focusing on it on websites yet. So just kind of ignore those for now. Plus, Site Improve is going to give you much more information as far as documents go. So yes, those are just, and you can totally remove those because they can be kind of distracting when you're trying to look at something. Oh, I guess I forgot. I forgot to remove the last columns. Okay. So this content, I don't need this anymore because I've put it in the accordion. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that layout. There we go. Questions, comments, opinions, anything?
I like the accordion style better. I think it looks nice and neat.
I personally really like the accordions as well, but it is definitely a personal preference. There's, like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just what looks best to you and what you think is going to be the most useful for your website visitors. So there really isn't a right or wrong way to do it. Okay, I hope this was helpful to kind of walk through some of the differences and how you actually apply all of the things that we teach during the training. Obviously, it's a little bit different because I'm copying and pasting information from a current website onto the new website, but the same basic rules apply when you're adding a new page or adding content to a page. You really can just mess around and find what works best and what you think looks best. Hopefully we are working on something. So hopefully when we meet again in 2 weeks, we'll be able to kind of announce that, but I think it's going to be a really good improvement and change. So that, I guess I don't have to keep it a secret. We are working on a jobs website that will be specific for county jobs. So instead of putting, now hiring stuff in your news articles because there's really nowhere else to put them, you'll be able to add them to a jobs website, which will then feed into your website. So it'll always post open jobs and stuff. So we've been working on that with county services, and I think we're getting really close to being done with that. So hopefully we'll have that ready and live within the next couple of weeks so that in 2 weeks, when we have another webinar, we can talk about that and get everyone access so that they can start utilizing that. If no one else has questions, I'll go ahead and let you go for today. And